Welcome back to Boise Entrepreneur Week. My name is Michelle Haynes. I'm the VP of Business Development at In Time Tech, and I'm here with
Cory Jakobson, Regional Commercial Manager for Umpqua Bank.
So, Cory, I have a question for you. This is how we're going to open it up.
All right.
What is something that has been on your mind lately? Sky's the limit. Anything.
Sky's the limit?
Yeah.
Anything? You know, I think what's been on my mind a lot lately is with respect to work, but even not, it's just culture.
Yeah.
You know, like how to develop a culture. What does a culture mean? How do we deliver that? I think that's been on my mind a lot. You know, from who are we? What do we want to be? What does that mean? What can we give? So I think that culture overall has kind of been on my mind for a lot of things.
Those are a lot of fundamental questions.
Yeah.
So in your exploration, what's your personal culture? And I got to meet you yesterday for the very first time. And immediately you struck me as someone you're genuinely listening.
Yeah.
You're interested in making a difference. Like, you care. So that's just been my experience, but what is it for you? Like, what is that
I think that's
culture?
really it, right? Like, do we genuinely care about others? Are we willing to help them? And sometimes helping them is telling them no.
Yes.
Or that's not the right thing.
Say more about that. I don't think we talk about that enough.
Yeah, so, I work in the bank, in banking, right? And it seems like the answer to most everybody's problem is, I need more money. Just give me more money. Sometimes more money isn't always the answer, right? There might be...
Sometimes I'd imagine that can make a problem
worse.
More problematic.
Right, yeah, it just covers up some of the underlying issues that may be there in the business or in your personal life or, whatever. So sometimes the answer is, hey, look, let's pump the brakes for a little bit. The answer is let's fundamentally figure out what we can do to be better. And so I think back to the question is, can we be genuine? Can we tell the truth? Do we think critically through situations that we're in? I think, the other thing that's been on my mind quite a bit is, do we have an open mind to what the answer may be, not what we're conditioned to believe that it's going to be, or, hey, this is where the path is leading me, even though it may be different than what we thought initially.
Sometimes a solution requires creative thinking, and it's not binary. It's not yes or no or black or white.
Right.
It's what really creates a win-win. Like, what works for you? Here's what works for me, and can we cover that distance together? And in the absence of that, it's actually from a book. It's not original by any means, but the concept of win-win or no deal.
Yeah.
We're either both going to be successful in this partnership and in this conversation and in this creation, or we really maybe shouldn't be together.
Right.
Because we were doing great before we started exploring this, and we'll continue to do great beyond that.
And we can still be friends.
Always.
We can still, go on and support and help each other, but we might have a difference of opinion or a different way in going about it. And it doesn't mean that we can't continue to support each other. And I think, as we talk about like Boise Entrepreneur Week and what we're doing and all these businesses and people there, I think that really is the key, right? If we can collectively help each other as a group, even though we may be competitors sometimes, even if we may disagree, if we can figure out a way to come up with a solution to a problem, ultimately Boise's going to be better, Idaho's going to be better, and we'll all be better. In the bank, we supply money. That's what we sell. But with that money, a lot of times the business owner, they're going to run a business. If they can run a successful business, they're going to hire more employees. If they can hire more employees feel more secure in their work, they're going to, raise a family or spend money or buy a house or whatever they're going to do in the economy, which is going to trickle through. So I feel like
it's a ripple effect.
Yeah. So when we're successful as a bank and we can successfully figure out solutions for business owners, we really serve the community in a broader sense, in that, hey, look, this is a great place to be. It's vibrant. People can remain living here as, a native Idahoan.
Yeah.
I guess I'm like one of 3 left.
I don't know about that.
But as a native Idahoan, we want people to stay here.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
But the only way we're going to be able to stay here is if we can afford to stay here. If there's good jobs, if there's people providing opportunities to be successful.
Yeah.
Idaho will continue to grow and it will continue to thrive, and it won't just be kind of a move-in community. We can live, grow, and stay.
Then we can be together. We can continue creating more for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So with all of the entrepreneurs that are here, I was just in this room listening to the keynote for the tech track, and now I know they're moving into a panel, and in between, as everyone's getting settled, just meeting students, people who are leading out on startups, people who have been in the industry for 20 years. Like, there's such a wide variety of experience in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Given all of the things that you've seen in banking and working with all sorts of different companies, what is one thing that you would want them to take away from this entire week's experience as entrepreneurs? Like, one thing that you feel like they could do that would make a difference?
Man, one thing, that's hard.
That's a really unfair question.
Yeah, that's unfair.
That's
but
true.
one thing that you can take from the experience, that I've seen, it seems like all entrepreneurs are willing to take risks.
Yeah.
They're willing to lead. So I think that those are always things that are there. Be true to yourself, be who you are, align what you're trying to accomplish with what your values really are.
Yeah.
And I think that as a business owner and, just as a person, sometimes figuring out what you believe and what your values are can take a while. You may not really know. That could be a lifelong journey, and it could change a little bit. But I think obviously you got to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a bank, that's what we care about. Do you make money? Can you pay back your loan? But I think it's a lot more enjoyable to make money if you know, hey, this is why I'm doing it. This is ultimately my goal. And your goal could be, hey, look, I want to exit this business and I want to make billions of dollars and I want to have all this stuff. That's great. If that's your goal, that's your goal. But know what your goal is in mind and how you're going to accomplish that. And I think as you can align, your work life with kind of where you want to be and how you see the world, you're probably going to be successful in however you define success. It may not be monetarily, but it may be you look back at the end and say, you know what, I did it how I wanted to do it, and I'm happy.
It's great to hear you share that. More recently, I was scrolling on Instagram.
Yeah.
And my feed is full of really fun things. I follow a lot of authors, a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of different kinds of coaches and whatnot. And it was actually a death doula sharing 10 years of experience and what she heard people really reflect upon as they were about to just transition out of life. And the very first thing that she said after 10 years of watching this happen over and over again is that the number one regret was people not living a life authentically, like being true to who they were, but instead living according to somebody else's standards. Right. So when you're sharing that as this is the one thing you can do that's going to set you up for just having a quality life, a fun life, where you're free to be and you're free to act, is huge.
But I think it's super hard to figure that out.
Well, and it takes time. You were saying that, right? Sometimes years, sometimes decades.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
I think we did pretty good, but I think we're out of time.
We are out of time.
Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks so much,
It's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you again, too. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll be back. But first, a word from our sponsors.